Guys, thank you all so much for being part of this panel. So let's start with a question that is a reaction to Andrew's great talk. Who owns the AI strategy in a company? Should it be product? Should it be CEO? Should anyone own the AI strategy? Does anyone want to volunteer on this one?
Okay, I will take this one. Actually, in the past, I used to work as a consultant at a Big Four company. And I can tell you that each large organization in Germany had several waves of AI, data and AI strategies over the last several years. Sometimes they're driven by business, sometimes by IT, very often though also with external consultancies. And then you have very nice slides about what is AI about, what is the risk, what is potential. I prepared some of them by myself as well. I can share if you're interested. But what you normally have in these slides is about building infrastructure, defining your data governance, thinking about training enablement. But the most important part is always about building this portfolio, which large organizations call use cases, AI use cases, in our language is data and products. And this is where the problems start, because you have someone preparing the slides, and then you have someone to be responsible for implementation or, okay, it also doesn't work. Let me put it on. Is it better? Okay, and these large organizations don't have experience in building products, but also consultancy firms don't have experience in building products. And this is something where you have this disconnect between high-level strategy, which sometimes even was sponsored by CEO directly, and then people on the ground who have to build these great products, which are AI-enabled, and where everyone will start asking, what is my return on investment? And the whole data offices, I also work in data office, will be questioned, why we guys pay for you? Where is this value that you are supposed to bring?
Yeah, maybe to add on this topic, so I really can recall all these management slides, consulting slides, etc. I think on another note, like if you look at the AI strategy and reflecting a little bit on what Andrew just said, regarding the question, the CEO asking you, what are you building regarding AI? So I think there are two sides on this question. So one side is, of course, there is a lot of excitement, there is a lot of interest, but on the other side, it's also, and reflecting the AI strategy part, it's really good to have this management influence, as well as also the AI positivity somewhat in your organization. That really helps to kind of like streamline the excitement and help innovate on the ground to create solutions, to ideate, to include many people into this brainstorming. And we at cplace, we luckily had this top-down support, but at the same time, we also, for us, it was really important to put AI or influence AI into our product strategy. So there is no single answer to who should own it, but I guess multiple teams and cross functions should be part of building the AI strategy for your company.
Mirela, you're looking across lots of different companies. What are you seeing?
It's definitely a game changer. It's probably the biggest milestone since Steve Jobs had that presentation we all saw many years ago when they released the iPhone. And if you think of also how companies treated mobile, right? Some companies made separate silo teams that just do the mobile apps. Other treated it by use cases or jobs to be done that certain area solves. So I think we're at the same inflection point where is this a department or is it something everyone should do, and how are you spreading responsibilities? So we did see at some clients there was a moment of pause where they said, okay, we're in this area, so we look at all the applications we could have for AI throughout our organization, and let's highlight a few pilots and let's run this. And then of course, the client I'm referring to is a large marketplace operating in a few countries across Europe. And one of the things that Gen AI can do very well, it can translate human language into some search filters, because no user wakes up and I'm like, okay, I want to select out of 50 filters to get what I want. it would be easier if you verbalize it and say, hey, I would like an apartment near a park that is under €1,000 rent per month. I know that's not possible in Berlin anymore, but something like that would be easier for you to think of, and that's how you also end up materializing it when you go to a slide and search for something. Could be travel, could be any other example. So that's one of it. So the short answer is our track record in tech has been kind of poor if you look at where mobile sits within organizations. So I hope we do better with this one.
Jordy, do you have a take on this?
Yeah, I'll have a quick take. So I think at HelloFresh, we have a great platform team that builds us capabilities and features to allow teams that are in certain product domains to be able to be really successful and use AI as a solution if that is a good fit for the problem space. So in my area, we're working a lot on using AI to generate recipes and also learn from user feedback to constantly iterate and create the best recipes that we can possibly create. We have one of the richest databases for recipes, if not the best database for recipes after 12 years of iteration and customer feedback. And I'm really excited for some of the things that we're doing in the future, and I can't wait for us to have some recipes on our menu that never touch a human at any point until customers are making it in their kitchen.
Just so long as there's no glue in the pizza.
Right, and no Hawaiian pizza in our Italian market.
Right. So you're all actively using this or working with companies that actively use this. How do you get started with experimentation in the first place? Where's a good starting point for it? Jordy?
Well, at HelloFresh, we have several brands across the HelloFresh group. So we sometimes use our smaller brands in some of our markets as a testing ground. So for example, when we start to develop menus that are completely generated by AI, we're going to be testing that in some of our smaller markets to just control the blast radius there a little bit in case we do come up with the Hawaiian pizza somewhere, which never should be sold in my opinion. So I think really trying to figure out the blast radius and controlling that is important, and having an ability to, even with machine learning solutions, have confidence in the output that you're creating and have some guardrails in place before you put stuff in front of customers to make sure that it's the quality that you and your customers have come to expect.
Really?
So aside from your example, which we've also seen, I could lean onto Andrew's presentation about AI increasing the valuations of companies. And there is even this chart Scott Galloway published a few days ago of how many times AI is mentioned in earning calls from Fortune 500 companies. We did have a few clients and we took them happily, because when we saw ChatGPT launched in 2022, we were like, okay, now we need to build a portfolio of clients that use that, because this is going to stick around for a while. And one of it was exactly that. A startup was looking to exit. They were B2B in the customer success space, and their clients were asking them, how are you leveraging generative AI? So I know it's totally the anti-pattern, right? You shouldn't come with a solution and try to find a problem from it, or try to come with the technology and try to shove it somewhere. But that was, to some degree, their product was selling the company and increasing the valuation of the company. That was the goal. And this helped. That specific client was acquired by a larger player in the customer success space. And our people also had a cool time figuring out how you minimize customer support response times, if someone asks what shoe size I should buy, and a few other use cases they had for their B2B clients.
There was a New Yorker cartoon I saw recently of two people talking over laptops, and one saying to the other, can you go through our investor deck and replace every use of the word crypto with AI? Navid, how about you? What do you do when you start with experimentation?
Yeah, so first of all, I think, shortly reflecting on cplace, so we are an enterprise company, so we serve our enterprise customers, managing their projects and portfolios effectively. And when AI arose, of course, there was a lot of hype. So the hype was real. And luckily, looking at the cycle right now, I guess, enterprise, especially in the German market, are a little bit slower in implementing and adapting AI, but for us it was very important to include our customers into the experimentation and exploration phase. So when we did our product discovery, we of course included customer interviews. We have luckily great partners and system integrators who help us customize cplace for our customers in the end. And we set up with, I would say, short hackathons, a couple exploration phases, experimentation phases, specific 2 to 4 week sprints and spikes. And we just involved very transparently everyone into the process to really ideate about the value, about the business impact. And what the really fun part about AI or generative AI is, in this case, it's that experimentation is very fast. So it's technology, it's available. We see all the big tech companies, the foundational model providers. You can just incorporate them in your experiments, and velocity and speed are very, very great and beneficial for your exploration phase.
Tetiana?
I think that you just have to start experimenting, and again, maybe your first idea will not be the best one, and this is your job as a product manager to figure out what will work the best for your users. But this first times, just to see how the technology works, how that can be applicable for my business model, it definitely takes some time. I recently talked to someone who is a GenAI product manager, and she shared to me, like, everything that I built as a prototypes right now didn't bring any value. And I asked her, why? Do you see any reasons for it? And she said, on one side, it took us pretty long time to understand how this works. Our engineers were not ready for that. Our stack was not ready for that. We really needed some time to learn it. And on the other side, she explained that expectations of business were very unrealistic. So she built this very standard chatbot for a particular domain, and results of that the chatbot was giving were not very good. So someone from business then started to correct each specific answer. But it doesn't work with LLMs because you will never have this 100% accuracy for your results. And then I suggested her, okay, maybe you first even spend time to explaining what is possible to do with AI or with traditional AI, what is possible to do with GenAI, and when it will not work. Because this is also our job as a product managers to have this educational work to be done across this organization and explaining how this works. But you have first to get this experience, even if it was a bad experience, it's still something that you already get some learning from, and then educate others. So, and the earlier you start, the better it is for you and also for the organization, because you want to bring this change then to your company.
Thank you. That's a great answer. You're also the first person brave enough to tell us something that went wrong in an experiment or getting started with it. So I'm going to ask the rest of you, what's something that you've seen not go perfectly? Let's put it that way. And what have you learned? How would you advise people to not make the same mistakes? Navid, you're nodding.
Yeah, a lot. Definitely a lot went wrong, but that's also in the nature of experiments. You're exploring something new, and having this technology available really puts us all into the driver's seat to just explore, and that's what innovation is all about, right? Putting existing technology together, configuring something new. And so what we thought that AI is maybe a little bit, or the way we integrate it, is more capable to deliver answers, was just putting the LLMs available on tabular data. So cplace is about tabular data. You create your own data models, and our customers can customize their data models on their specific needs. So this turns us into the challenging situation that, we don't have a big common ground for all customer data. So it's really hard for us, if not putting a lot of money into creating our own LLMs, to get the results out of the examples just by using available foundational models. And this was, I would say, one of the biggest insights that we learned. So we thought that this tabular data, ask your data case was very prioritized, high prioritized on our list. We thought this might be the first deal, but we pivoted to another experiment, and luckily other experiments turned out better, and now we're here.
Mirela, have you seen anything?
Yeah, so I have one for back in the days where I was still hands-on supporting a maternity cover at Zalando. They're very good. Like if you want to work with that, they've been super good at transformer models since like 2020 and 2021. So that the capabilities were quite mature there. But I did make a mistake as a PM. We wanted to test recommended outfits, so it was very similar to the screen you saw from Andrew's picture. You see an outfit, and that outfit is made based on some things you purchased and kept, or just looked at, and it tailors it to your preference. And we were looking at expanding this capability across a few premises, and at the same time doing some A/B tests. And one of the mistakes was that I didn't align very well with the applied science team, and they weren't ready with the mature model, and they gave me some other model that we tested, which had a bias towards black clothes. I made fun of it. It's like the Berlin, the Berlin version of it. And also had a smaller pool of inventory, so it wasn't tapping into the full inventory. And then the A/B test performed poorly, so we all wasted a lot of time, and we didn't know because we ended up testing two things which you should never do, right? You either you test the UI change, or you change the algorithm, and you test that with no UI changes. And we had to scrap that, and it was also the highest traffic premise on any e-commerce platform is the product detail page, and we just wasted a lot of time. So that's also paying attention to all these details, because we're very trained visually, right? Whenever you look like all the UI elements to be there and to not make any changes, but you should be the same level of due diligence with the model. What model did we fully understand what the applied science team is giving us for this test? In my case there, it wasn't, which turned out that we all lost some time.
Jordy?
Sure. Maybe not necessarily a mistake, but certainly some poor quality initial outputs of some of the solutions that we were providing. So one of the areas where we're using Gen AI is to really scale our ability to have really nice product images. And it takes a lot of effort to get product images for HelloFresh products, because you have to cook it in the kitchen, you have to then put it in a photo studio, and we're trying to really expand the variety of our offering and create a lot of modularity. So maybe your pad thai dish, instead of just always being offered with chicken, it also comes with beef and vegetarian and tofu, etc. And so that multiplies the number of product images that we have to create. And so we developed a solution to start creating those product images from the database we have of all the images that we've created in the past. And some of the output initially was just atrocious. I mean, just really looked like really terrible Photoshop jobs. And so I think, really making sure to test and iterate was the big learning there. And things are not really necessarily going to work outside of the box, or out of the box. It's a bit too good to be true. Yep.
Thank you. So with all of that, how do you know when it's time, when you're able to move beyond experimentation and start using AI in a real production environment? What are the signals that you're seeing? And Jordy, you're using this quite a bit, so.
Yeah, I think it does start, let's talk about the product image example. So I do think there still needs to be some human evaluation to be able to get some confidence, understanding from the model that you're creating, so that you can then let that run wild and feel comfortable letting it create product images that go straight to the customers without having to be audited by a human. So I think it's really important to still have quality assurance controls in place, and when you're able to reach those thresholds, let it run wild. I think the same is true for things like when I used to work at Amazon, I worked on machine translation, and having quality translation scores was something that we often did before letting those models run wild to create millions of products across Europe.
So you've got the issue there that this is a black box. It's not a directly repeatable process. You can't audit and say, with this prompt, I always get a similar answer. How are you putting that control in place? You said you don't want it to be human audited every time. How are you defining success and creating the rules or the governance around that?
So I think there has to be at least some initial form of human audit, and you can use that data from those audits to eventually train an auditor to scale the audit that you need to have. There's a lot of audits in that sentence. So I think it's really hard to take humans completely out of the picture. I just don't think that's going to happen.
And Tetiana, you're doing this in healthcare, and a lot of times we say, well, it's not a problem if you make the wrong decision. No one's going to die because of this. But with Merck, it might be a little bit different. So how do you handle this?
Well, I think first thing, you actually don't really start straight from the beginning with GenAI. You normally would start with some data preparation, data analysis, and for initial products or for initial scope of the product, it might be enough that you already get some insights before you go into something very fancy that you can present to your management, right? And that's why I see this more like an evolution. You don't launch an AI product just from scratch straight away with all their possible capabilities available there. You go step by step. And in our case, for example, I'm building now a new platform in which we analyze the results of the clinical trials that we get from different institutions, hospitals, and so on. Currently, we don't use the LLMs. For now, the goal is actually to build very scalable infrastructure, very reliable infrastructure in which we first need to do all the tasks important in order to be able to submit these results to the regulatory institutions. But in the future, yes, we have an idea, for example, what is really a dream for a lot of people working with this data is to ask, okay, can you give me results how this biomarker was what was the results of this biomarker in different studies? So to do this cross-study checks would be a great situation where you can use machine learning, because then you can scroll down through a lot of studies which no human would be able to do due to the amount of effort of work. But maybe we'll come there in a year or two. For now, I still want to focus on fixing the basics and provide this so-called data foundations before you do something fancy on top of it. And there is another aspect here about trust to whatever your product is. If your users happy how they use a product, it's created already trust, then with the new AI-enabled functionalities, adoption will be easier because they already know that they can rely to you as a vendor or as a product team taking care of it. So I think it's just like a step-by-step process. But it's not that you were yesterday a traditional company and today you are an AI company and it just happens over the night. It's a hard work.
Navid?
Yeah, I see it similar than Tetiana. So the way we decided to integrate generative AI into our product is that we put a bit of the responsibility into the hands of our customers. So what we see throughout the industry is, you all have probably saw the little disclaimers like results are not deterministic, hallucination might happen, etc., etc. So within our enterprise area in the industry, where you really want reliable outcome, reliable output based on the questions that you ask using the LLM technology, it's really hard to deal with non-deterministic outcome, with possible hallucination, with maybe even wrong results that might then in the end hopefully not harm but might harm people. So we provided this flexibility toolkit to our customers. We allow them to integrate their own LLM models or foundational providers, and it's a lot about education. Telling what to expect, how to deal with it. But certainly, if you look at this hype cycle, we see now that also enterprises are starting to integrate AI into their day-to-day operations and work. So this part of the education about the expectation management is also now starting to move towards the minds. And I think we all, like looking at the technology side, there are no basic JUnit tests or Java JUnit tests to just assure that the quality is always given. So it's, I think, an explorational phase that we are still in. And we hope that the foundational models get better, and we already see, for example, the first iterations into getting more deterministic outcome, which, for example, are the seeds that are now incorporated within, for example, OpenAI models. And we are experimenting with this, but it's still the start of the journey of Gen AI within enterprises.
Mirela, anything on this one?
Sure. So Navid covered with Tetiana the hallucinations and the quality of the output, but also the capability to understand and parse vast volumes of text, which is something still very remarkable. The other part we need to consider is also cost, especially if you're using an external model, right? This can skyrocket very fast. Of course, the obvious solution is when you roll it out as a proof of concept, you do it in a smaller country and for behind the login or even for paid users. We also see this with LinkedIn right now. If you have LinkedIn Premium, they can help you write messages to someone on 2-3 prompts. And the generic message that's actually quite annoying right now does not generated by an AI, right? It's the same templates that I think Jason Knight made fun of it. That sounds passive aggressive. Hey Randy, it's been a while since we talked. It's just like how
I've gotten a lot of those. Yeah.
So there are lots of things you can do even with these limitations, and in the long run they're going to get 10x faster and 10x better. But at the same time, consumer expectations are going to increase. It's like this highway examples, right? You build more highways and then you end up with more traffic jams, or people thought movies are going to get cheaper to make with CGI, but actually the consumer expectations for what these animations should look like increased so much that movies got more expensive because now you need more computation power, more effort in this, and so on. So it's going to be this Red Queen effect where just on all sides people ramp up the capabilities. So if anything, I know in Europe we're like a bit more conservative with things, but I think we should really embrace this and double down and not have just like a 2-people team somewhere in a corner of the organization integrating OpenAI or Claude or any other model, but have this like a full-on effort.
So I'm curious, when you're dealing with other people, they come to you and say, so what's our AI strategy? What are we doing with AI? They're also often saying things like, can't we just put AI on this and make it go faster?
Can't we just?
Like it's
Yes.
magic pixie dust.
And give it to a team that already like has a 110% capacity booked, you know, that's the classic.
So, but we also know AI isn't a thing. AI is a bunch of different technologies that are classed together. You've got LLMs, you've got ML, you've got any number of other things. Is it useful when someone comes to you and says, can't we just, to then be specific with them, can't we just what? Can we just do this, that, and to focus on the outputs? Or are you happy to sweep it under the rug in the same way that you would any other number of dev technologies? You know, you don't want your CEO or your salesperson to dictate your tech approach and your tech stack. You want them to talk about outputs. I'm sorry, not outputs, outcomes, excuse me. Bad ranting. Yeah, so do you want the other people in your company to be really knowledgeable about what AI does and be specific, or are you happy to work with them on that more generic level?
If I remember correctly, because we were also in Mind the Product last October in London, Georgina Smallwood had this amazing insight, or just talk on people's language. Instead of saying we need to do more discovery, you could say we need to do due diligence, because founders would understand that, and it's, you know, go map to their speech. And it's not just AI, right? There's many times that the CEO comes in and said, we need more SEO juice, or, you know, just something right? It's not just like one thing. It's like, why is our app like that, and look at our competitor. So it's more of, okay, what going back to whatever your OKRs are, your growth goals, and tying that up to the conversation, seeing if it's on that vein, or if they're kind of coming up with a new thing and then try to merge that new thing into what you were doing, or deprioritize something else. It's just the usual. So I wouldn't shut them down. probably they're trying to help, and probably their investors or their board members or someone else and send them this TechCrunch article and told them like, why aren't you doing something? Maybe Jordy can also give the perspective from a publicly listed company, as I wonder like how conversations are going over there.
Yeah.
That was big sigh.
And then you're not allowed to say it, right?
Yeah, let me think about that one for a second.
Tetiana, you looked like you had something to say.
No, the thing is, I'm very positive about this AI hype. Like before 2022, it was very hard to place AI as a topic in the senior management, especially like in my consulting times. I just really struggled to show this sense of, or create this sense of urgency, as we call it, that, okay, I know that you are profitable today, but it really might change in 10, 20 years if you miss this train. And I felt that, especially because senior management also are mostly like a bit elder, and there were less interest for new technologies. And now with this hype, it's so much easier to get budget, funding, or resources if you want to work on new topics. I even have a situation in another department, like at Merck, where generally there was a hiring freeze. But then a manager of this department pitched idea about GenAI and how that can help that business unit to be better in what they do. And he got 3 positions opened in Germany last year. And I think it's a great strategy. So use this hype for the best of your product, ask for more resources, ask for more engineers, for more budget, because this is how you can also then use this momentum for development of your product. And even if you, of course, always get these questions and again, hey, do we have a little bit of AI in that product? I still think that this interest is very important. Because in the future, these guys or women will be your supporters when you want to bring your product to the next level. So I would still see this as a positive moment, and I think it would be much worse if your management is not interested in this topic at all, because then I would question, okay, how the future of this company will look like.
I thought about it.
Okay.
So I actually want to riff off of what Andrew said, because I think it all starts with, are we aligned on the problem we're trying to solve? Because AI is a tool and is a solution, right? And it's not a good solution for every case. So perhaps you just need a basic rules engine, or you can do some basic recommendations with a linear function. Like, you don't have to get super sophisticated. So I think, I hope everyone should feel somewhat empowered to push back when we start to solution, especially with people who are perhaps outside of their depth a little bit on the topic.
Okay, I'm going to move us on because we've only got a couple of minutes left. But Navid, I'll start with you on this one. In terms of recruitment these days, what are you looking for when you're hiring people? Are you looking for people specifically with AI, LLM experience, or are you looking for people who have other experiences that are additive, and you're okay with training them in this technology on the job?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we at cplace, we follow more of like right now an upskilling approach. Like if you look back, so with the rise of Gen AI, 2.5 years, I think we saw some career posts, job postings about, hey, I'm looking for someone who has 7 years experience in generative AI. I think we all saw them. So it's kind of like tough to really find talent that, has much more experience in this area than very talented people in our teams already have, because they were interested in the technology, interested in doing research. And so what we certainly are looking for is developers with Python skills. So our product is built with Java and Angular, so Python wasn't really the most trendiest topic for our developers. So regarding this, upskilling is one part, looking into more intrinsic approaches to level up the basic knowledge, the education of the grammar that we all did, I guess, learning all the difference, but also learning the tech. And when we recruit people, of course, AI is currently a bonus. So it's AI proficiency, but also AI motivation is a big bonus. So I think within the next years to come, I think this will be a basic skill for a lot of jobs, not just the engineering and product jobs, but also for every opportunity that you all are going to maybe seek for. So that's the approach we are currently following.
Tetiana, you said you managed to get budget to open up some roles. What are you looking for when recruiting? What's more important?
So I have a bit different opinion, and you know that. You actually need to differentiate what kind of product you're responsible for. In my case, I mostly work with infrastructure products. And my products are very technical. My core audience is very often also technical people, like data scientists or statisticians or data analysts. And I generally mostly look for data scientists who are interested in understanding better the business side. And the reason for that is, on one side, because each data scientist built over last years several times prototypes that didn't work, and they have this intrinsic wish, actually, it should finally work. I want to learn how to bring this value. And on the other side, I'm afraid, actually, as a manager, as a hiring manager, to take someone from business with low affinity to infrastructure or to data, and then try to teach this person. And normally, when you already have approval for hiring, you should already have hired this person a year ago. So there is already something burning. And that's why then the risk that this person will not be able to learn most important stuff within the next 3-4 months is very high, because data analytics world is very complex. You need to understand nature of algorithms. You need to understand how infrastructure works. You need to understand basics of data governance. EU AI Act doesn't make it better, because then you have even more regulation in place. And that's why, in my case, it's kind of easier job if I look for a technical person who then wants to start doing more business and customer-facing activities. Is it right? I don't know, but it's just kind of a shortcut that worked for me very well over the last 2-3 years. However, I must admit that this list of requirements for product manager, especially in AI space, is getting exponentially bigger and bigger. And I'm actually started to ask myself if maybe we will have at some point this split between business-facing product manager and then technical product manager facing on delivery of AI capabilities, because it's just complexity is so high. I don't know how one person can handle all of that at once in upcoming years.
Okay, Jordy, we know the most important question when you're hiring somebody is, do they have good taste in pizza? But but after that,
I think in our product teams, we're looking for PMs that have technical depth. So I'm expecting PMs to be able to provide examples of when they were able to influence their engineering teams or science teams on some of the actual requirements and solutions that they're building, because they have that depth and they're focused on making sure they create scalable solutions for their customers. We also expect our PMs to be super data-driven, understanding how the data is produced, how it's consumed, what are the controllable inputs that you can control to drive the outcomes that you're looking for, and understanding data quality concerns, as you mentioned. Data governance I think is super important. And ultimately, for me, I think the number one thing that I'm still looking for in all PMs is customer centricity. Are you able to understand the problem and your customer that you're trying to solve and make their life better? And do you have a proven track record of delivering results?
And Mirela, we'll give you the last word.
Sure. So it's a mix of both worlds that I'm seeing. It's indeed valuable if you are very large organizations like HelloFresh and Merck, that you want someone who has been able to not only survive in these areas, but also thrive. So there's one thing to be a PM at a Series A or at a B2B that's 50, 100, 200, 500 people, and the other one is to have all the complexity of cross-functional work and navigating, planning across a whole world, and also millions of users, millions of euros of revenue, multiple market dependencies and all of that. So you would want someone who has dealt with it. On our side, I could speak for the client requests that we get. There sometimes are, I want a PM that has a computer science background or worked on data products before, so that comes along. Or other times is like, I want someone more business oriented, we have good data engineers, and I want this person to get it done somehow. So it varies depending on what a specific client values more or what they see as the core problem to be solved.
I think we have officially gone 3 seconds over our allotted time. Well, I'm feeling very, not German, but Swiss now. So, thank you all very much. You were fantastic.